I remember the first time I saw Jordan Hayes. He was sitting in the interrogation room with his hands cuffed to the table, a blank stare fixed on the dirty mirror. A 32-year-old high school teacher, clean record, beloved in his small community, now accused of murdering his fiancée, Alina Wells. That I've been a criminal defense attorney for 15 years. I've represented dealers, gang members, embezzlers, and people who were, without a doubt, guilty. But something about Jordan felt different. It wasn't just his calm demeanor or the way he refused to speak ill of Alina, even when pressed. It was something behind his eyes. Not fear, not guilt. Something colder, but I was good at my job. Too good, some would say. My firm handled high-profile clients, people who needed to win. We didn't just defend, we dismantled. Prosecutors hated us. Jordan had been found kneeling beside Alina's body, covered in blood, the murder weapon, a kitchen knife, on the floor beside him. The neighbors heard the screaming. One had called 911. The police arrived minutes later, but there were inconsistencies. The timeline was tight. Too tight. Forensic reports showed Alina had died around 8:40 p.m. The neighbor claimed they heard screams at 8:55. Jordan said he found her when he got home at 8:50. He called 911 immediately after. The timestamps matched. And yet, the prosecution insisted Jordan was the killer. That's where I came in. I met Jordan in the holding cell. He looked at me like I was the only person in the world who might believe him. I didn't kill her, he said. I swear to you. Every client says that. But I nodded. Then let's prove it. Over the next several weeks, I built his defense. I poked holes in the police timeline, got the forensic analyst to admit that the estimated time of death had a possible variance of plus or minus 20 minutes. That was enough to make Jordan's 8:50 arrival plausible. I found surveillance footage showing his car pulling into the driveway at 8:47 p.m. Alina's smartwatch had disconnected from her phone at 8:42. We argued she'd been alive when Jordan arrived, but the real break came when we dug into Alina's phone records. A number had called her repeatedly the night she died. We traced it to an unknown man named Shane, a former student who had a brief fling with her. Enough for doubt. Enough to raise eyebrows. In court, the prosecution painted Jordan as a jealous, controlling fiancé. I painted him as a victim of tragedy and circumstance. I even had him cry on the stand. Not forced, not rehearsed. It was like he tapped into something dark, something deep. The jury lapped it up. After 2 weeks, the verdict came. Not guilty. Jordan collapsed in tears. I patted him on the shoulder and congratulated him. The judge dismissed the case. He was a free man. People called it the comeback story of the year. A wrongly accused man cleared of charges, thanks to a brilliant legal defense. My inbox flooded with media inquiries and new clients. That I didn't think about Jordan again. Not until a year later. It was a rainy Thursday evening when he showed up at my office. I just finished a deposition and was pouring myself a drink when my assistant buzzed me. There's a man here. Says his name is Jordan Hayes. He doesn't have an appointment. I froze. Jordan walked in without waiting for me to invite him. He looked different. Thinner. Paler. His eyes didn't have that cold blankness anymore. They had something else. Remorse. Can we talk? He asked. I motioned to the chair across from me. You could have called. I didn't want to leave a trail. Something about that sentence made the air in the room heavier. He sat down, resting his hands on the edge of my desk. I've been thinking about it every day, he said. What I did, what you did for me, and what I need to do now. I said nothing. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a flash drive. Set it on my desk. It's all on there, he said. Everything. What happened? How I did it. What? I stared at the flash drive, not touching it. What is this? A confession. Silence. He looked me dead in the eye. I killed Alina. I stabbed her in the kitchen. Then I washed up, sat beside her, and waited for the police. I lied to you. I lied to everyone. But you made it all go away, and I can't live with it anymore. I stood up, the drink in my hand, shaking slightly. Why are you telling me this? Because I want to turn myself in. But I need your help to do it the right way. I laughed once, bitterly. You want me, the guy who got you acquitted, to help put you in prison? Yes. And if I refuse, then I'll go to the cops, with or without you. But I think you deserve to know the truth. My mind raced. Everything I'd done to win that trial, every trick, every strategy, every ounce of reputation I'd built, It had all freed a murderer. I was going to leave the country, he continued. Disappear. But something changed. What? I saw her sister last week. She was visiting Alina's grave. She still believes I'm innocent, that I'm the victim, and I realized I don't deserve that. He slid the flash drive closer. To me, help me do this. Please. I didn't touch it. He stood up and walked to the door. I'll be back tomorrow. If you decide to help me, plug it in. If not, I'll go alone. He left, and I was alone with the truth. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Marcus Kane's face, calm, unreadable, saying those words again. I did it. I killed them. The echo rang like a bell in my skull. I sat in my home office, lights off, the quiet hum of the city outside the only sound. I kept going over everything, the trial, the evidence, the witnesses, the alibi. All of it. That I knew he was guilty, and yet, I got him off. I was good at what I did. Too good. Maybe that I didn't tell anyone what happened. Not yet. He hadn't asked for legal advice. He hadn't confessed under oath. But still, it felt like holding a live grenade. I needed to know what his endgame was. Why now? The next morning, a courier arrived with a thick envelope. No return. Address. Inside were several photos, grainy surveillance shots. One was of me, entering the courthouse. Another was of my wife. And another, of my daughter, Hannah, getting off the school bus. My blood went cold. A note was tucked into the last photo. In precise handwriting, it read, "Be patient. All debts must be paid in full." I immediately called in a favor from a friend at the DA's office. Quietly, I told her I needed to reopen the Kane case, unofficially. She thought I was crazy. "Ethan, he was acquitted," she said. "You're talking about double jeopardy. Unless he goes to the press with a full confession, there's nothing we can do." But she agreed to meet me at the evidence warehouse that night. That evening, I kissed my wife a little harder, hugged Hannah tighter, and drove out past the city limits to a forgotten building with flickering lights and buzzing humidity. The evidence from the Kane case had been boxed and stored for over a year. The murders had been brutal. A young couple, the Rowans, found in their apartment, stabbed repeatedly. No signs of forced entry. The police had focused on Marcus because he was the brother of the victim's ex-girlfriend and had a known history of violence. The key evidence had been a bloody glove found in a dumpster nearby. Kane's prints weren't on it. The DNA was inconclusive. I remembered how smug he looked the day he walked out of that courtroom. "Let's start with the glove," I told her. We opened the box. The glove wasn't there. In fact, the whole box was nearly empty. A few bagged items, but nothing of substance. The file listed several more items that were now missing. "What the hell?" she muttered. "This isn't right." I nodded slowly. "Someone cleaned this up." We checked the logs. A name popped up. Officer Delaney. Retired 6 months ago. No one else had signed out the box since. Delaney was crooked, she said. Everyone knew it. Couldn't prove it. I drove home with a pit in my stomach. The case was dirtier than I'd thought. But why come back now? Why scare me? Unless he was setting up something bigger. That night, I got another note. This time, it was under my windshield wiper. "You owe me the truth. Come alone. Tomorrow, 10 p.m. The cabin." He meant his family's old cabin in the woods, the one he claimed he hadn't visited in years. During the trial, he said he was at a poker game across town during the murder window. 3 of his friends had backed that story. I drove there the next night, with a gun in my glove box. The place was still. Trees clawed at the roof, wind whispering through broken shutters. My headlights caught a shadow near the porch. He was waiting. I got out, slowly, gun still hidden. "You came," he said. "I want to know why." He smirked. "I've been thinking about what you said. About guilt. About the law. You were right, you know. I was too good at my job." He shrugged. "You saved me. But you didn't understand me. Then help me understand." He led me inside. The air was thick with mold and dust. On the floor was a large duffel bag. He unzipped it. Photos. Papers. A bloody knife. The missing glove. He looked at me. "This is the truth. I want it to end." My heart pounded. "You kept this all this time?" He nodded. "I wanted to see if I could beat the system. And I did. But it didn't fix me. And now I want you to make it right. You got me out. You put the lie in motion. Only you can pull the string. What do you expect me to do with this? Tell your friends. Leak it. Drop it in the right hands. I'm not turning myself in. But if this makes it to the news, they'll have to open it. I stared at him, wondering if it was a trap. And if I don't? He reached into his coat and pulled out a phone. Then your daughter's violin recital tomorrow won't go so well. The screen lit up. Alive. Feed of my house. Of my family. That night, I slept with my gun on the nightstand. I stared at the ceiling, heart racing, as the weight of my decision sank in that I could leak the evidence, burn my reputation, maybe face legal backlash, or I could keep quiet and watch him slowly destroy my life piece by piece that I went back to. The DA the next day handed her everything in an unmarked envelope. Where did this come from? She asked. I can't say. You know, if this leaks, it could cost you your license, right? I know. She paused, then nodded. I'll make sure it finds the right path. 3 days later, the story broke. Murder evidence resurfaces. In high-profile acquittal, the backlash was swift. Cain's name was all over the news. The police reopened the case. People screamed about justice. And then, Cain vanished. He was gone. And the phone feed went dark. But the real nightmare had only just begun, because one night later, a package arrived at my door. Inside was a photo of my wife, asleep, and a note that read, "Too slow." It had been a year since I defended Marcus Wellerpoint, 12 months of walking through my life with the quiet, suffocating question, did I help a murderer walk free? I tried to bury it under work, under scotch, under long nights with case files and meaningless distractions, but it always came back, in the silence between meetings, in the pauses of my arguments in court, in the mirror, when I looked at the man who'd once believed in justice like it was religion. Marcus never reached out after the trial. No thank you. No letter. Not even a Christmas card. Part of me was relieved. Another part was terrified. I followed the news like a hawk, waiting for his name to surface in another tragedy. But nothing. Until the night he walked into my office. It was just past 7 p.m. My secretary had gone home. The building was mostly dark. I was reviewing depositions for a corporate case when the door opened, and there he stood. Marcus. He looked thinner. Not sickly, but worn, like something had been chewing at him from the inside. He was dressed well, same dark suit and tailored coat, but his eyes weren't the same. Evening, Mr. Preston, he said quietly, as if we were old friends. Didn't say anything. I stood, unsure if I should shake his hand or reach for something heavier on my desk. He didn't move closer, just stood there. I owe you something, he continued, and not just money. I didn't do it for gratitude. I replied cautiously. What are you doing here? He smiled slightly. Closure. That word hit me like a brick. Closure. I repeated. Marcus, if this is some kind of game, it's not. He stepped forward, slowly, and then did something I never expected. He placed a small voice recorder on my desk and pressed play. It was his voice. The confession started with the night of the murder, how he waited, how he planned it, how he watched the lights go out in that house and walked in like a ghost. He described the kill in graphic, remorseless detail, the sound of the struggle, the silence afterward. Then he named the victim, Eleanor Griggs, that a name no one had ever tied to him. Not the woman he'd been accused of killing. A different one. When the recording ended, I just sat there, frozen. I killed her, he said flatly. Not the woman they charged me for. But I did kill. And I knew if they caught me once, they'd start digging. I couldn't let that happen. You're confessing? I asked, my throat dry. Marcus nodded. I wanted to see your face when you realized it. He stood, adjusted his jacket. And now that I've said it, I'm going to disappear. There's no evidence, Preston. Just a recording you'll never be able to use. You think I won't? Try. He smirked. I know you. You're bound by the same system that let me walk, that you used to free me. You think a judge will take that tape? That you can play something a man gave you without legal cause? You're a monster, I whispered. Marcus leaned down close. No, I'm just the man you helped. He left before I could stop him, and when I played the tape again, the recorder shorted out. The bastard had rigged it. Gone. Just like that. I sat there until midnight, staring at the spot where he'd stood. A man I'd saved. A man who confessed not out of guilt, but to taunt me. Let me know I'd failed. And the worst part? He was right. Everything I'd built, every courtroom triumph, every ideal I held about justice, it was all a lie. I was part of the machine that let evil slip through its cracks, and now I had to live with it. Asterisk 4 days after Marcus left my office, I didn't sleep. Not really that I'd close my eyes and see her face. Eleanor Griggs. I hadn't known her name before, but now it haunted me. A name plucked from the shadows, handed to me like a poisoned gift. A woman whose murder hadn't even made the news, because no one had known it was a murder that I tried to find her. Her name wasn't in the system. No open case. No obituary with foul play mentioned that I went deeper, called in favors, dug through missing persons databases, even reached out to a retired detective friend who owed me more than a few drinks. And there she was, Eleanor Griggs. Age 29. Reported missing 14 months ago. No signs of struggle. No known enemies. Case closed due to lack of evidence. Her family still left flowers on her doorstep every week. Marcus had buried her so deep, the world had forgotten, but I hadn't. Not anymore that I became obsessed. Not with proving he'd killed her. I knew that tape was gone for good, but with doing something to I did what lawyers are trained never to do. I stepped outside the law that I hired someone. A private investigator. Not the polished, licensed kind. The kind who could find anyone. For a price point 3 weeks later, I got the call. We found him, the PI said. He's in Panama. Using a fake name. Got himself a villa by the coast. Of course he did. Marcus was never going to rot in a one-bedroom apartment. He was going to live like a king. With blood on his hands that I booked a flight the next day. Panama felt like another world. The heat, the salt, the slow rhythm of life. It was the kind of place you went to forget, but I wasn't here to forget that I found him on the beach. Shirtless, tanned, drinking something out of a coconut, surrounded by silence and sun. He saw me and smiled. I was wondering how long it would take. I should call the police. He chuckled. You won't. I know what you did. He took a long sip. You knew the second I walked out of your office last year. You just didn't want to admit it. There was no remorse. Not even mockery. Anymore. Just certainty. I came here to tell you something, I said quietly. He raised an eyebrow. You didn't destroy me. He laughed at that. You're kidding. Look at you. You've aged 10 years. Your hands are shaking. I may never prove what you did to Eleanor Griggs. I may never get you in court again, but I will never stop. I'll be the shadow over your shoulder, the whisper in your ear. One day, you'll slip up. You'll get too confident. And when that happens, I leaned close. I'll be there. He went quiet. For the first time since I met him, his smirk faltered. Justice doesn't end in a courtroom, I said. Sometimes it begins after. Then I left that I didn't call the police. Not then. I didn't make a scene, but I made a promise to Eleanor, to myself. Back home, I left my firm, started a foundation, quietly funded investigators who looked into forgotten cases, helped reopen files that the system ignored. That I never told anyone about Marcus. I didn't have to, because 6 months later, they found a body buried outside a property he'd once owned in Michigan, female, late 20s, decomposed. But dental records confirmed it. Eleanor Griggs. And Marcus? He disappeared again. But now, he was being hunted. By police. By press. By people who cared. If that's all I ever wanted. Not revenge. Not redemption. Just the truth. Finally catching up to the lie I once helped walk free. The Yendi.